zoning appeal, November 24th. We have a quorum present. I appreciate Connie stepping in for the mayor this evening, who is on other city business. We'll move on to approval of the minutes, please. We were reviewing minutes last month and making a recommendation.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, old business. Number 1, special exception for a church in an R1 zoning district. Sidewalk variance and landscape buffer variance for the proposed Rock Springs Church to be located at the intersection of Blair Road and Vineyard Lane, probably owned by Rock Springs Church. We do have a large crowd here this evening. Just want to explain a few items. If you want to speak, you're more than welcome to speak. If you would, when you come up to the podium, there's a sign-in sheet. If you'd sign your name so we know who attended and who spoke. And we'd like to hear both sides so we can make a good determination here. With that, Mr. Green, we'll move on with you.
Rock Springs Church has submitted a plat to subdivide their lot, which is located off of Blair Road. The lots are both zoned R1, and I'll put the zoning map here. This is the lot that's highlighted as 3 road frontages. They've requested the special exception for both of the proposed lots, which they have submitted the plat for the Planning Commission later on. They've withdrawn their 2 variance requests, which they had, and here's the letter showing that they've withdrawn those 2 variance requests that were previously submitted. For the special exception, the board should review criteria based from the zoning ordinance that is in the report, pages 1 and 2. One of the things that are noted in that is access. Site access has, there's 2 entrances on Vineyard and Burntwood, and there's one right there, and there's the other. Landscaping far exceeds the per acre requirement that we have. They've added shrubs in the front yards as required. Parking lot is also screened. I think I meant to put that on the report in the presentation, but I didn't get that in there. I think it may be on the Planning Commission, but basically they have put a row of shrubs along the property line in front of here on all the road frontages. So, and then also the parking lot screened with a fairly heavy shrub buffer. I have received about 30 calls on this. Had approximately 6 people had concerns about traffic, the access points, and the building exterior. And had 1 email that was also against the church being on that. I do want to note, though, I think there were some concerns here. This is just a special exception, and it's not a rezoning. There will only be a special exceptions allowed in R1 zone for a church, and that's only to be used for a church. It wouldn't be for a other commercial type use. And a lot of my phone calls I got were that was some of the concerns. So I did want to clarify that and make sure everybody was aware that it's just a special exception for only a church use. Okay, I did have the landscape plan. This is the landscape plan that I was, there's the buffer between the proposed Blair Oak subdivision, and there's the row of shrubs that have been added along the property line. There's the buffer with the parking lot along Vineyard, and they've also added some landscaping around the site. So the landscaping far exceeds our current requirements. So that's one of the positive things I think that's been added since the workshop. Also, this is an elevation plan that we've had submitted to us, and just kind of shows that the proposed exterior. I don't know if that's still the current exterior that they're looking at, but I think it is. But this is what's been submitted to us.
applicant like to speak first? Anyone from the applicant? If you could just raise your hand and be sworn in if you would, please.
Do you swear or promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Will you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Michael Hughes. I'm the civil engineer for the project with Site Engineering Consultants, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I'm here along with Joey Ryan with Dow Smith and Chris Brewer with the church, representing this project, requesting the special exception for the property. To tell you a little bit more than what Grant had mentioned, on the north of the property is Blair Road, and across from that is R3 zoning property owned by Morris Parker. On the west, he mentioned, is the Blair Oak subdivision. It's has a preliminary plat was approved, but no final plat has been recorded, so no lots have been divided just yet. On the south side is Ivy Point subdivision section 2, which is zoned R1, and its final plat was recorded July 16th, 2003. On the east side, along Vineyard and Burntwood, is the Woodsong subdivision, section 3. Final plat was recorded October 19th, 2006. And the property which the church would like to build on was purchased in December 2004. And shortly thereafter, they posted a sign stating that this was the future home of the Rock Springs Church with their phone number and website on the church. The church property is approximately 5.94 acres. They only plan to develop 3.9 acres towards Blair and Vineyard and a little bit along Burntwood. The rest is to remain a reserve parcel. It's approximately 1.8 acres. And they're also, of that 5.94 acres, they're dedicating to the city 0.23 acres as right-of-way for Blair Road widening. And if you have any other questions, the church is approximately 9,200 square feet, and you've seen the elevation, architectural elevations, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
The construction of the building, the roof, and the sides, what's it going to be made of?
The builder here, Joey Ryan, is with Dow Smith. He can fill in.
My name is Joey Ryan with Dow Smith Contracting Company, 51 North Lowry Street in Smyrna. The building construction is a wood frame building with an architectural shingled roof. The siding that you saw up there was a cementous siding, hardy plank siding, and the church is putting quite a bit of manufactured stone wainscoting that is common for that area and the new homes in the area. So you'll have Centurion stone siding, lots of Centurion stone on the drive-through. So it's a craftsman style facility.
And the front of the building is going to face Vineyard, or is it going to face Burntwood?
The front of the building will face Vineyard. That's the gable side. I don't know if Grant could put the elevation back up there. But, the east elevation is what is looking at Vineyard. Mm-hmm. The south elevation is what looks at Burntwood. And you can see that they've got a manufactured stone wainscot with water table, and then the stones on the drive-through columns are all stone, and you've got a dimensional shingled roof. That's also there.
On the other drawing here, it also says future addition. Would that be of the same material?
Yes. Yeah. There are no immediate plans for that. We're just.
Mr. Attorney, one thing. If this was approved, now, we're doing this as a special exception in R1. If something were to happen and fall through or something, they could not use that for any other exception that would be in R1, correct?
Correct, no, you
Okay.
would be approving it for a specific use, not,
Okay.
and that would be the distinction between a special exception and a rezoning, and in this case, you're just looking at a special exception.
Because one of the things we can have as a special exception is a daycare. And I wouldn't want to be thinking there's a church going there and then a daycare come in later on. So I want to make sure that it's clear that this is the only use it could be for it, other than go back to R1. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct, and one other aspect the board ought to be aware of is the fact that you can, with a special exception, you can place reasonable conditions on the use of the property if you choose to do so. So that's one other area that you can explore
Okay.
and consider this item.
Just to follow up for clarification on that for me, because I was going to ask the same question about daycare. The church cannot run a daycare in there, is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I think, as I understand your question, Mr. Parker, you're saying if the church were to vacate the premises and then a daycare were to come in and use it,
Right.
that
was
would be
my
one
question.
thing. Now,
That was
whether or
my
not a
question.
church can operate a daycare, I don't know. I don't know whether
That's more my question.
Right.
You know, if they do, is that a violation of this exception?
Well, I mean, they're asking for a special exception to operate a church. I don't know whether or not it's part of their, and the church will probably speak to this,
Okay.
whether or not that would be part of their plan as a church. I assume most churches have those types of things that go on in them, so.
Does that make it a commercial property, though, if they run a...
You're not changing the zoning. You're not changing the zoning at all in this. So you're not making anything a commercial property. You're just allowing a special exception for use of a church.
The
That's
church,
fine, yeah.
the church doesn't
I'm
have any
still-
plans for a daycare.
Okay.
Well, they'd have to be licensed and come back and,
Yeah.
would they have to be licensed and come back and ask for an exception for that if they decide that use later on?
Courtyard zoning ordinance, something I looked into, and I've spoken with the caller. A home daycare is the only thing that's allowed by special exception with the R1. So technically, you can't get a specific exception for the daycare for a church in R1. You'd have to rezone it to a C2 to have something like that, or I don't know if the special exception would technically still allow the church to run a daycare. I'm not aware of any allowance for that.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen, for the applicant? Okay, one at a time. Anyone would like to speak for or against, would like to step up in an orderly manner, would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Could you state your name when you get a chance and sign the sheet if you would, please? Thank you.
My name is Douglas Stanfield. I reside at 8054 Vineyard Lane. Good evening, members of the board. Thanks for letting us come. I, my family, and fellow neighbors of Woodsong and Ivy Point subdivisions come before you tonight in opposition of the proposed special exception for Rock Springs Church for the following reasons and concerns. Number one is traffic, gentlemen. These two local roads are heavily traveled now by Woodsong, Ivy Point, Potts Crossing, and the Vineyard subdivision, and it also serves as a cut-through road for Rock Springs Road. With the additional 54 lots planned for sections 4, 5, and 6 of Woodsong, as Mr. Parker stated at the Planning Commission meeting on April 12th of 2005, quote, Vineyard Lane will be a busy street. Mr. Parker, you're absolutely right. It's heavily traveled. Having two access points in such close proximity to Burntwood and Vineyard Lane and Blair Road intersections could cause traffic backups and possibly be a hindrance to the adjoining property owners. Safety of the children at play is also a great concern to everyone, especially the parents who live on these two roads. With proper road improvements, we feel Blair would be a safer egress for the church members and surrounding property owners. Number 2, please, gentlemen. The properties that adjoin are in close proximity to the proposed building site are composed of at least 80% brick, most being a combination of brick and stone. As this is a subdivision requirement for Woodsong subdivision and Ivy Point subdivisions, the proposed building as planned is to consist of a stone bottom wainscoting with a hardy board plank type siding, as Representative Joey Ryan from Dow Smith Contract stated earlier, and also at the Planning Commission workshop on November 10th. It's not compatible with the surrounding structures or properties at all. No colored elevations at the time of the November 10th meeting at the workshop was available, or building material samples were present for you, the board, at that meeting to get a visual picture and aid in determining if the building would be compatible and harmonious with other structures and surroundings in the area. The setbacks for this site have been changed from a required, more stringent to a less stringent setback that puts this project even closer to adjoining properties. We have too many unknowns here. It is unknown at this time how tall the proposed structure will be. At the November 10th meeting, the elevation sites drawings, we didn't see those. And then Grant, if you could, thank you. I still don't see a scale on there that tells me how tall that is. And things change in the field. It's not going to have steeples or spires, so that answered my question here. But any of these features that they do have, will they be lit at night? What about any signage for the church? Where's it going to be located? Will it be a lit monument type sign? How tall will that sign be? What about future growth? From the looks of the picture, we could have 15,000 square foot plus a 9,200. That puts us at almost 25,000 square foot. That's a big church for such a little piece of property in the middle of a subdivision. What about daycare? We've answered that question. There can't be a daycare. I was the one that called Mr. Grant and asked him about the R1. Somebody said daycare. It's not what your ordinance says, gentlemen. It says home daycare. I interpret that to be a mother watching 5 kids in her house, not a commercial. What about the proposed lot 2 that they want to do? There's too many questions of what they want to do with that piece of property. Could it be the pastor's house? It could be, but there's just too many unknowns at this time. That second lot, how many accesses will be to that lot? 1 or 2? It's almost 300 foot long. We have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. What about the future growth? You know, it's going to be a big building, and we're concerned about what about the required green space? Does the city not have a required green space that's allowed on a piece of property? What's the maximum lot coverage for all the structures, now and future? What about buffers such as trees? I live on Vineyard. I'm going to be looking at right at this. I don't see any trees. All the trees are on Blair Oaks. That's not protecting me or my neighbors. You know, the buffers of the trees, the tree berms and shrubs, what type would they be? I finally got the landscaping plan, so that question's been answered, but I'm telling you, if it's a holly bush, ain't gonna protect me from headlights at night or any noise or light, glare, vibrations, or any odors that may come from the site. This thing's gonna be overpowering. It's proposed at 9,200 square foot. That's 60% larger than my home. And that's not including the future growth. It would just be too overpowering for this. We have drainage issues. Drainage from these impervious areas will flow south into a detention area, as you see on your plan. Brandon, if you could put that up, please. you know where the, you know, it's from the access off Burntwood Drive, right there. The elevations show from the church front of an elevation of 708 to the bottom of that detention pond at 692. That's 16-foot drop, gentlemen. I got 91 parking spaces of impervious area, the roof structure, plus the land is drained to that one pond. I know for a fact that not all detention ponds drain 100%. I deal with them every day. You know what they do? They harbor mosquitoes and vermin. And this pond, at that location, you see the proximity to the other two lots, they don't want to have to deal with that. So in closing, these are questions and concerns that need to be addressed before any special exception should be considered due to the adverse and detrimental effects this exception could cause to the surrounding property owners. Gentlemen, just in Woodsong subdivision, Section 3 alone, which consists of 11 properties thus far, we've spent a total of $3.5 million in purchasing our homes. With more building to come, I feel property values, new home sales, and resales are going to drop. We've all worked long and hard to purchase these homes in such an affluent subdivision in Laverne. And I, my wife, and my fellow neighbors respectfully request that this board do its due diligence in protecting our property, life values, safety, and welfare, and deny the special exception request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Please step up one at a time, if you would, please. We'll continue on.
Oh, okay, sorry. My name is Becky Pollock, and I live at 8041 Burntwood Drive. I'm right up next to the proposed property, Lot 2, that wants to be subdivided with no plans. Traffic problems, safety of those playing in the area and around intersections on any given day, overflow parking issues are cause for serious concern in our neighborhood and have to be addressed. Diverting traffic into and out of the neighborhood will not decrease dangerous issues associated with the curve on Blair Road. It is going to increase the traffic flow into and out of the neighborhood via Blair Road at certain times during the week. In addition, adding 2 access driveways into our neighborhood will create traffic backups, speeding, noise, and safety issues. The streets are narrow and already have plenty of traffic flowing down Burntwood Drive and Vineyard Lane from Potts Crossing, Vineyards, Woodsong, Ivy Point, and those using it as a cut-through from Rock Springs to Blair. There is an additional 4 phases of homes to be built and will access these streets. The neighborhood streets are ill-equipped to deal with increased traffic, parking, and children's safety issues that would be created by having the access on Burntwood and Vineyard. How are you going to deal with the increased traffic flow, safety control, and maintenance? There are a proposed 9,100 square feet of building with 90 parking spaces. There's also a 15,000 square foot building titled Future Expansion. As I understand it, there was once a possibility for a preschool program. Where is the parking for all this space? What are the proposed lands if splitting into 2 lots for lot 2? We would like them to be forthcoming with the master plan for the entire lot. Parking is going to be where? The streets cannot hold overflow parking numerous times a week. Some homes located on Burntwood and Vineyard have existing drainage problems as is. The city's been called on these personally by ones that drain off that were created from the connection of Blair Oaks down Burntwood, down the side of my property. When it rains, I mean, it flows down, you know, down the neighborhood and, you know, and in back of the yards. There, you know, where's the drainage for Lot 2? Where is it going to go? Will it flow into the retention pond for Lot 1? Will there be a second retention pond? This possibility could cause additional problems for those homeowners who are affected. The buffer zone should do just that. The 3-foot holly trees 15 feet apart is not a definition of a buffer zone for a neighborhood. There should be tall trees, bushes, and small plants to help with privacy and noise for existing homes. Where is the signage? How tall? Is it going to be lit 24 hours a day? Will there be other lit areas of the building? Bottom line, this property needs to have access along a major traffic artery as to deal with the kind of traffic created from such large facilities and should not be on neighborhood streets. The lot should not be divided into 2 lots until the master plan is shown and solutions for traffic, safety, parking, and drainage provided. Thank you for your time and attention.
Go ahead.
Grant, I just had a question. Where is your home? Or Grant, could you just give a point the red light to where her home is?
Right there. That is my home.
Okay, thank you.
Purchased before said property.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Jack Allen. I live at 4004 Lima Court in Laverne, Tennessee. I'm right there. The back of my property, Lima Court, you can see in the left corner. I'm the center, so, yeah. That's, just in case you were going to ask, I'm going to get that out of the way. Just a couple of things. Again, the entrances from any other road than Blair Road doesn't really seem to me that we're incorporating good traffic flow to avoid congestion. I know this has been said earlier. Use of Vineyard Lane and Burntwood as routes to and from the property would substantially increase the risk of accidents involving residents of Woodmont, Vineyards, Ivy Point, and Potts Crossing. These streets were designed and constructed for residential use only, and they're not wide, folks. If you park a car there, you're going to be pushed to get traffic. The proposed design materials regarding it's not like the rest of the neighborhood is. I know they're not part of the neighborhood, but if they're going to open up into it, then basically they are a part of the neighborhood. My 2 cents, it ought to, the church should, or whatever is going to be there, should come out on Blair Road. That eliminates all the traffic issues and such. Again, we have the, like as stated earlier, the homes are 80% brick, and some of them have stone and stuff on the front. This just doesn't really, obviously, go with that. I'm sure you understand that. The unknown factor, what's that other lot going to be, the lot 2? Later on down the line, nobody knows. Nobody can predict the future. And there's one other thing. I'm struggling to get the right word. I don't want to say this wrong here. Okay. Sexual offender. There is one that, as far as I can tell, without getting and walking it off and getting a tape measure out, if you took the streets, the roads around the area, from this person's address to that property line, it's 1,360 feet. Now, a straight line, you're probably getting close to that 1,000-foot mark. That should be a concern. above and beyond anything else. And I just hope you guys do the right thing, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question on clarification on that last comment you just made. I don't understand that. You say somebody lives in the neighborhood and is 1,000 feet or 1,300 feet
Yeah,
from the church property? And I'm not sure.
I think it's within 1,000 feet of a church, or, let me get it right here.
So your point is there's somebody in the neighborhood who.
They're already there, been there since,
I see. Okay,
been there for a while.
okay,
And it's pretty close.
okay.
Now, I have one question for you. What year did you purchase your property?
October 2004. October 1st, moved in October 1st. We actually had it built, and we're going back into June. Now, we had to move twice, which I just really love. So,
Understand? Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Gosh, did I bring all that up? Okay.
Anybody else like to speak for or against? Sir, step up, sir.
I'm Judd Scott, and I live at 4001 Cherish Hope Court. And I'm not opposed to a church being built on this site. We knew when we bought our home there that it was a proposed site for a church. I am concerned that there's not a full disclosure of the use of the whole property right now, the way it is right now. And I'm also concerned that with this future addition that's been raised before, that the parking situation is there's not going to be enough room there to meet the minimum parking requirements for that large of a facility. So and the other concern is that's been raised already is I don't believe that the design of the church fits in with the neighborhood. So nobody else signed, but I will.
Good for you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else like to come up and sign and speak?
Do I need to sign it?
And if you could also state your name, if you would, please, just for the record.
My name is Samuel Otis. I live at 8062 Vineyard Lane. I live really right in front of what their church is going to build. I'm not.
Excuse me, sir. Grant, can you show me whether it is recorded?
Right?
He's on the corner right there.
Right there. I'm right on the corner. I'm not in disagreement with the church building. I too am a minister and I understand the process of building. My concern is the move coming into Vineyard Lane as a subdivision, as an entrance to their building. There is a lot of traffic that goes in and out of Vineyard Lane. There is, I think even someone made it the statement last week at the meeting that Blair Road and Vineyard Lane was a dangerous intersection. I agree because there have been several accidents there since I've been in the area. I've got grandkids that love to play outside. I think with the addition of the church coming in that area, there's going to be more traffic. I think that's going to be a concern for the congregant as well as people that live in the area. I think that we need to take that under consideration as well. I understand that there's a problem, perhaps there might be a problem with the church concerning money of extending Blair Road. I think that needs to be taken under consideration to extend Blair Road and come in from that direction instead of going into the community the subdivision to have an entrance. And I'm pretty sure that, like most folks, we've saved up money to try to buy a house in a pretty nice neighborhood. Thought maybe that our kids might be able to have a good time in the area and whatnot, without any danger of perhaps maybe one of the cars coming by and hitting them. We've had several cars, for some reason or other, come over in our yard. Just here recently, there was an accident on Blair Road, not very far from the intersection. Last year, there was a couple of cars that ran off into my yard. So there's no doubt that the intersection is somewhat bad. There are still lots that have not been developed yet, which is going to bring in more traffic. So my concern is the traffic plus the safety that it will have on our community. Thank you.
I have a question, maybe for Grant. How big is that subdivision? I've driven down in there, but what's the potential plan for all of that back in there? Because a lot of it's not built yet.
I'm not for sure how many lots total. It's
Sir?
There's several sections in the subdivision. I don't have that total with me.
Section 1 is 28, section 2 is 33, section 3 was 14, sections 4, 5, 6, and 7 is approximately 57 more lots.
Okay, so 100 plus,
Yes,
maybe 150 lots.
and that's just Wood.
Yeah, right.
Grant, can I look at that aerial again, please?
Sure. Let's see. This just shows basically that property. It doesn't give a good overlay or a good picture of how many lots are there. This kind of zoning map actually gives a better idea of how many lots are down south of that.
And that keeps on going?
Yeah, it goes on into Smyrna.
Anyone else like to speak for or against? Please stand off the podium. Go ahead. We're here to listen.
My name is Darrell Weiland. I live in Laverne. I don't live in this neighborhood. I live in Lake Forest, but my sister-in-law who's here lives on Buffalo Drive right off Vineyard. My mother-in-law lives with her, and we would just like to say that when they moved in 2006, there was hardly any homes in that neighborhood. The church sign was up, and she has a very nice home as well, as most all of the homes are very nice in that neighborhood, but it's no surprise that a church was going to be there. The sign was there, and so no one should really be shocked that a church is finally being built, and our family is for the church being there as proposed. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak for or against? Please step up, if you would, please. State your name and sign the sign-in sheet.
My name is Mike Shivers. I don't have an elaborate set of details on schematic or anything like that, but I do live at 7016 Merlot Drive in the Vineyard subdivision that's been mentioned several times. And I'm not opposed to any church. I love our church. But 9,000 square foot church in the neighborhood, adjacent to the neighborhood of where I live, my house is 15 foot shy of 4,000 square foot. It's not a large church, but there's so much traffic in there now. My coworker's son was in an accident on Blair Road as a passenger that the paint still stands on the road today that you can see. It's been that recent. I'm very concerned, my 6-year-old's with me today, of the increased traffic. You mentioned the number of homes in that subdivision, Woodsong alone. There's over 300 in the Vineyard subdivision. Just the construction traffic that doesn't obey the law of ingress through our subdivision. They're in there every day. My biggest concern is the addition of the patronage of the church every day. My wife or myself go by there twice a day at least, taking my son to and from school at Rock Springs Elementary because that's the route there. But again, I'm not opposed to the church in any shape, form, or fashion. I don't think it comes up to the standard of our Brickcomb and those that the neighborhood that we live in. We moved there in spring of '03, prior to the signs and the decision of the church buying that land. I am highly opposed to the location, not of the church, but where they chose to put it, and you know, for the record. So I'd like you to consider the safety issue of our children playing. There's a 3-way stop sign in there in my front yard that I couldn't tell you, but about 20% of the people obey that law each and every day. I just don't want to see anybody hurt, and you know, in the name of God, you know, He'll take care of us, but we have to do our part too, and I ask you to take that in consideration.
What do you mean of where they wanted to put it? You're opposed to where they wanted to put it? You mean just in that?
In that area, it's so tight. You're talking an S curve. You know, my coworker's son is a passenger. You know, he's sent to the hospital just because it's so narrow in there with the current congestion. You got an elementary school just on the next corner. A lot of children. Just those 3 combined subdivisions that I've heard mentioned in this first meeting that I've come to. There's over 1,000 homes there in those 3 subdivisions, or 4. So I live to relation of where I lived in the church, Vineyard Lane, Moe, I'm the second, Merlot rather, I'm the second house coming down the hill on Merlot. So kids ride their bicycles up to their friend's house at the corner of the street, the previous gentleman that spoke. You know, I love my church, and you know, they're on several hundred acres, and you know, my voice, if I had a vote, it would be to pick another location. So I'll sign this and address.
Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Please step up. Yes, sir.
My name is Bobby Grugan. I live at 566 Old Nashville Highway. I have been a resident of Laverne since 1996. I do not live near that area, but we do drive past it frequently. I know that the sign, I believe, has been out there since, what, 2005, somewhere in that area. It appears to still be a young subdivision back there, so I really can't speak on that part, but I can tell you that I'm proud to support this church. It has been very good for my wife and our 4 children. A lot of good things have happened out of it that I can, you know, never repay in any shape, form, or fashion. So, as a resident of Laverne, I want you to know that I am in support of the church. Do I sign anywhere?
Yeah. She did.
There's not a for or against?
No, just
No ballot.
Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Certainly, go ahead.
Do you remember the church? Where does the church have a current location?
Yes, sir. We are currently at Laverne High School.
In high school, okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leslie Warta. I live at 7010 Buffalo Drive in the Ivy Point subdivision. We bought our house in July of 2004, just like everybody else, worked hard to get that. But we are for the church. We knew when we bought the house that the church property was, or the church was looking at that property. We hadn't purchased it yet. The church hadn't purchased it yet, but we wanted to be close by. And that's one of the reasons why we chose Ivy Point, is so we could be close proximity. My boys ask, I have 3 young sons, they ask, when are we going to get to ride our bikes to church? Because that was one of the appeals. We live in a sidewalk community. I walk those sidewalks 3-4 times a week. I want to be able to walk around the church. I want to be able to walk to my church. And like I said, they ask, when are we going to be able to ride our bikes? And it is a family-friendly place. It's going to be great. And we look forward to it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kennedy Wilson, and I live at 4002 Lima Court in the Ivy Point subdivision. Obviously, a lot's been said. I don't know that I can add anything other than you know, having a voice as to the church. And just like a lot of folks in here, I'm not opposed to a church. There's a lot worse things that go there other than a church. And believe me when I say that. Our concerns that has been stated over and over again is, number one, traffic and safety. Secondly, the type of building that's going to be built there as it relates to our homes. I moved in my home in March of 2004, and when I purchased my home, the church sign wasn't there. Okay, the property hadn't been purchased yet, and so on and so forth, but I'm concerned, it was brought up concerning the drainage. We don't know anything about what's going to go on the second lot. You know, the young lady spoke about sidewalks and her children riding the bikes. Well, if the second lot is not developed, it won't be a sidewalk. So you'll be in the street with all of the traffic. Okay, so we would all like to know what's going on that second lot. We don't know that. You know, I know that it's been talked about, the C2 and the R1, and I think our concerns have been met there as to what can actually go on that property, but we still don't know. What if the church decide that, you know what, we don't want to build our church there. You know, it's just too much, and it's rezoned for C2. Then now anything could be built there. Then what do we do? So what are we trying to do now is just address all of our concerns now so that there's not any surprises on the back end. We love our neighborhood. We have nothing against a church. We have nothing against the people that's building the church. We're just concerned about what type of building, safety, and what it's going to look like. That's it. You know, I don't know what else to add other than that. And like I said, just wanted to speak. And I will sign as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak for or against?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Karen Scribner. I live at 108 Drennan Lane. I don't live in the neighborhood, but after hearing all the discussion over the church and everything, I just wanted to say, as far as like the road and the traffic and everything, people will learn to adapt. If it's out of control now, there's a church being built there, and people will take that under consideration as far as following traffic lights, following speed limits, being more cautious, being more careful. As far as the drainage and things, that can be worked out. I mean, there's got to be a way, you know, I know everything's in the budget and everything, but, you know, like I said, it's adaptable. Things can be worked out, and I strongly believe that, you know, there's a lot of good people trying to get this to happen, and I know you have to take everything into consideration, but I just wanted to say that I believe it's a good thing, and I believe it will help the area, and I think all the concerns would be put at rest, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak for or against?
Hello, my name is Angela Stewart. I live at 8038 Burntwood Drive. From the church property, I can see it. I can see, I'm just a couple houses down. We bought there in May of 2005, moved here from Florida. We saw the house in April. It was the last house for Ivy Point. One of the reasons we bought there was because we knew the church was coming there, and we felt like that's where we needed to be. It was almost like something telling us this is where you need to live. We love the neighborhood. We love the sidewalks. As far as the driving issues and the safety concerns, I know that they've already put up stop signs in different places in the neighborhood to slow down traffic. And trust me, if you've gotten a ticket there, you don't go that fast through there anymore. So things like that have started to be addressed. I'm sure that things as far as Blair Road, there's still construction, so until certain things have been accommodated, that's going to go on. I'm very much for this. I am a part of the church. I don't know what else to say. We moved there in 2005, and it was because, one, there was no homeowners association in Ivy Point. If there's never a selling tool, that's one of them. And the second one was the church. And other than that, there are houses in our neighborhood that have minimal siding. I don't think anyone has the hardy board, but there are siding on some of the houses. So not everybody is 100% brick. You'd have to drive the neighborhood. Not everybody has landscaped, you know, the majority have. So I think also with the landscaping of the church, that will keep it from the property looking like it looks now. It'll be a lot more inviting. You'll be able to see through different parts, you know, where you can see what's going on instead of what we have right now. I guess that's all. I'm definitely for it. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak for or against? Yes, sir.
My name is Kirk Hodge. I'm a member of the church, and I just wanted to kind of speak to the facade of the building and why that was kind of chosen. We want to fit into the community, and we see the community there being more than just the area completely adjacent to the church. There's a trailer park that's down Blair Road. There's also a few other single-family residences directly in front of the building. There look to be vinyl-sided houses. I don't see, you know, a hardy plank type of facade not fitting in with the neighborhood. So yes, the majority of the homes, newer homes there, are the brick facade. I don't know what CCNRs they may or may not have and how much brick they may or may not have, but you know, it was the facade and the wainscoting's pretty typical of, you know, numerous buildings. It was kind of modeled off of the museum built down at the Sam Davis House in Smyrna. If you want an idea of what we were going for in the facade with the architecture, it was kind of modeled after that, which Dow Construction also participated in building that building down there. Nice looking building. I think it fits in with a rustic type of atmosphere down there at the Sam Davis House, and with you know, the 6-acre site that we have here. It's not the, obviously don't have 100 acres to build on, but you know, still trying to keep the area, keep the building to fit in with the area, including the homes. It was considered the brick homes in the area, but is also considered that we want to be a part of the whole community, not just this one portion of the neighborhood directly surrounding the site. Thank you. I'm also a member of the church and on the building team. I do not live in the area, but I do live here in the city of Laverne at 133 Sweet Gum over in Poplar Springs subdivision.
Anybody else like to speak for or against?
Hello, I'm Bert Cry. I live at 5003 Monaco Drive. I live basically right on the back side of the property. I know several people that stood up here. I am a member of Rock Springs Church. I am also on the building team, so I've listened and heard some of the concerns, duly noted. As Kurt just said, you know, we proclaim ourselves as a church for the unchurched. We try to make ourselves appealing to anybody and everybody. So as far as the brick facade of the church, like he said a minute ago, when we went with a hardy plank board, which is a cement type product, we are adjacent to the property, but we were trying to take into account surrounding neighborhoods, you know, within a 2 or 3 mile radius of people that come through. So when people drove by, they could see the church, see it as a church, but also not, you know, look at the church and say, you know, whoa, I don't know if I need to go in there. It looks like, you know, people get judgmental, and it's the wrong thing to do. They look at a piece of property and think, you know, it can turn them away. So that's why we went with that. As far as entrances, we thought about the entrance to Blair Road, but same principle with many of the concerns here was safety. We were thinking about the safety of the members of the church as well. With that being that S-curve there, we didn't know if that would be an adequate entrance and exit for our members to make the turn and get out. As far as the church goes, we meet on Sunday. It'll be morning, and then we have one other program during the middle of the week on Wednesday for the youth. And so as far as people wanting to know a little bit concerned about the traffic, you're talking about 2 time periods, 2 days. Of course, yes, as we grow and the church grows, then other programs might come about that people were asking questions. So, like I said, I live right behind the property. You're more welcome to come talk to me if you have questions as well. Like I said, I am a member of the church, and I am for the church. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Otis. I reside at 8062 Vineyard Lane, the corner lot, in the Woodsong subdivision. I think everybody in here knows that the church was going to be built, but I would like to read this to you all, and my husband Samuel spoke earlier. We respectfully request that the Rock Springs Baptist Church proceed with its original and approved plan to make its point of ingress and egress at Blair Road. We understand that the church does not want to incur, or maybe the city, the extra expense of widening Blair Road. However, for the safety of the families in Woodsong subdivision and for the safety of the church congregants, it is imperative that the church follow through with its original plan. The proposal to move the point of ingress and egress for the church to Vineyard Lane creates a safety hazard. The corner of Vineyard Lane and Blair Road has already proven difficult to negotiate with the regular flow of our subdivision traffic, as there have been a number of accidents at the intersection. We fail to see how moving all the church traffic to a subdivision street that was never intended to accommodate such traffic creates a safer situation for anyone. Any change to the church's original plan will directly diminish the quality of life for everyone in the subdivision. Vineyard Lane is a subdivision street, not a main thoroughfare. For the Rock Springs Baptist Church to persist in moving the point of ingress and egress within the subdivision sends a clear message to the families who live in Woodsong that saving money is more important than the safety of our children, owners, and their own congregants. Our objection is not to having the church in our community. We are happy to welcome the Rock Springs Baptist Church to the neighborhood under the conditions of their original plan. Whereas we feel that they will be a positive addition to our community, we should not have to surrender the quality of life we have grown to enjoy in our subdivision for their monetary convenience. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak for or against?
My name's Chris Brewer. I am the pastor of Rock Springs Church. And first I want to say to all of our neighbors, I thank you for your concerns. And certainly we want to hear them. Our church, we have always been, since we've started in Laverne, when we started in 2000, is to be a community-based church. We're interested in what our community has to say. To the best of our ability, maybe not without mistake, sometimes we've tried to include our neighbors, even to the point where we ran a sewer easement to the folks building on that subdivision on the opposite side of us. They wanted to purchase an easement and to run it down the entire tree line. We didn't want to do that, and we went and talked to our neighbors. That's one of the reasons we got through. We went out and talked to our neighbors in the community, told them what they were wanting to do. They said we'd love to keep that tree line. So to the best of our ability, we as a church did that. We gave up even a half acre of our land to run that easement across that to help benefit our neighbors. I will say to you, any concerns you have, as Bert has said, he lives in your community, feel free to go talk to him anytime. Our number, website, whatever. I've gone to lunch with one couple. They called. I didn't know them when we first bought the land. So we're open to any and open suggestions. Secondly, no plans for daycare at all. That's not something that we plan on doing. And in regards to the entrances, we don't determine where the entrances are. I believe that's up to you all. And if you all want to put those on Blair Road, then we're fine with that. We'll leave that to you guys. I understand safety. I lost my son, my 17-year-old son, in a car accident just this past July. I understand the safety of children and wanting to protect them. So that speaks highly to my heart. And I said, you guys, we'll do everything we can. Even in regards to me, if I have to tell them every single Sunday, folks, make sure you're careful going in and out of here, that's of utmost importance to us. You know, we want to be a help to your community. That's all we want to be. We're not coming in there to lower any home values or anything like that. We just want to be a help to the community, as we've always tried to be. We hope, and our goal by being there is to be, Bert said we started the church to reach unchurched families. The average time we came into Laverne, the average churchgoer's age was about 55, but the average age in the community was about 32. And we wanted to reach those families. We wanted to reach those families to see things, even like divorce rates cut down and things like that. And by the grace of God, we've been able to do that to help families. So that's what we're about. Anything that we can do and take under their consideration, as well as you all, we want to be a part to do that. As you've heard from us, we tried to include not just the homes that are right there, but those that are within even a half mile. We want to be inviting to folks. A lot of folks today, especially younger ages, are intimidated by churches. We don't want to be intimidated. I think the fellow mentioned that's why we don't have a steeple. We don't, you know, we want to be inviting to folks. So any way that you all can help us in regards even to their suggestions, please do so. I know we're here to be a help to the community and not a hindrance in any way, form, or fashion. Okay.
Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, what's the membership that this plan can accommodate with the traffic pattern or with the parking places and all of those things? Maybe Grant,
We actually, our parking requirements are based on either the number of seats in the sanctuary or the square foot of the sanctuary. That's they base this on it. 45 spaces are required, and they write it down as spaces.
We do have twice the amount of required parking, but the sanctuary right now seats, it's planned for 180 seats. Right now, they're running around 150. Right now, they're running around 90, correct?
Yeah.
So there are 150 seats planned for the sanctuary.
Got a question for Dale Smith. The height of the building, that was a question that's brought up. What's going to be the highest point of the building?
The eave height is 14 foot. I believe it's on an 812 pitch, so that puts it around 30 feet at the ridge, I believe.
Okay, another question was brought up about monuments. Have we got any monuments, steeples?
We don't have any planned right now. I'm sure the church will have some type of signage, but
we'll want to put up a sign probably up towards the front. It will not be something large. We don't plan on putting something up that's going to have a message every week or anything like that. Just something to state by Rock Springs Church. Okay, it won't be high. It'll just be where you can see it from the road.
And with that signage, that will have to adhere to our...
Yes, sir.
Correct. And the church has been proactive during the planning stages. We met with Grant and Kyle at an early stage and took into all their accounts. We wanted to put an entrance on Blair Road. We tried to put an entrance on Blair Road, but in interest of the public safety, the city requested that we move the entrance off of Blair Road so that we didn't pull out traffic on the curve there on Blair Road. So the church did try to put an entrance on Blair Road.
The lighting that was brought up too. And what's
the lighting? There are 4 total parking lot lights
planned. 2 in the front for the front lot, 1 on each side, and 2 in the back, 1 on each side.
And any lighting on the building itself?
Not currently. There will be some lights underneath the canopy, maybe 1 light shining on the front of the building, but other than that, I mean, the church is on a very tight budget. They're planning to do things the right way, but being a good steward as well. But so we're just in the interest of the safety of the church members at night. We just planned on 2 lights in the front, 2 lights in the back for minimal lighting, so they can at least see to get to the vehicles.
I got a question for Grant. When we consider this for the special exception, they're breaking off into 2 lots.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Either lot, only thing can be put on either lot is something pertaining to that congregation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Either a
And
church
and
or a
we need to stress too, it's not being rezoned C2.
Right. Yes, sir.
It's going to have to still adhere to all of the rules of R1.
Correct.
Correct?
It could either be a church or a single-family residential as normally allowed.
Normally allowed, okay. Okay.
Now, what if this church sells it to another church? Can they do that?
Yes, ma'am. They could build another church if that's what happened, if they were to sell it to a church.
I think it's also maybe appropriate to mention that if it doesn't pass, the acreage could, if the acreage just has to be sold, if the church can't build, it could be subdivided into 10 to 12 lots, and could be 10 to 12,000 square foot vinyl sided homes. So that it doesn't fall under the R1 I believe the R1 allows for
15,000 square foot lots.
15,000 square foot. So there's several. There could be 10 to 12 more houses put there that don't fall under the subdivisions regulations. But the church, they want to do it and be a complement to the area, not a hindrance.
I have a question. You said the sign were in front of the church. The front of the church is facing Vineyard Lane.
Right.
So where would the sign go? Vineyard Lane or Bell Road? Because it's on Vineyard Lane and it's in the neighborhood.
To be honest, we put it where they tell us to. I mean, most likely, I would think, it may be towards the corner, not in front of the building, but more towards the corner down there. Again, it's not something huge that we want to put up. There's going to be lit or anything like that. Let people know it's church.
Yeah, let's take some questions. I mean, while up there, let's keep it orderly and ask the questions. I'm sure they'll answer them for you. Go ahead, sir. Sure, absolutely.
Grant, can you show them where I live?
Sure. Yeah.
I'll sign while I'm up here.
Thank you.
My concern is my house faces this piece of property. I have double windows in my master bedroom with a big arch window. When I wake up in the mornings, if there's a sign, or if that, Grant, can you show the front elevation, please? If somebody gets a bright idea to backlight that cross on the building, when I wake up in the morning, I think I've died and gone to heaven, which is a good thing. But I want to be able to sleep at night too. Okay, and addressing the parking situation again. We did a little investigative this past weekend just to see how many members went to the church. We went to Laverne High School at 10:30. I don't know why anybody else would be there. There were 77 cars in the parking lot already. This lot is designed for 91, the way it is. Future expansion, you have 150 members now? How many? 150 folks. We're topping out. I mean, I think Becky did the calculations, but it's like 87, 85% already at capacity.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from with that, but on that particular day, what if they decide to get a bus and pick the individuals up at their homes? Then you won't have any. You won't have 71 cars. You'll have one bus
what about their
bringing
future
50 or
growth,
60
sir?
people.
What about their future growth?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What if they get 2 buses for the future growth? See, when you start to speculate, you have to think about from each side.
I see your point, sir.
Yeah, I'm just saying, think about that part too.
Have you purchased a bus?
No. Future expansion. They haven't expanded yet.
Okay.
No, I'm not asking him
But-
if he's purchased it. I'm
but
saying,
has-
you're talking future, so I'm talking.
Okay,
future.
in the future, are you gonna buy a bus?
Are they gonna expand? Are they gonna expand?
The plans show future expansion. It's anticipated.
Well, sir, any future expansion is going to have to meet the same criteria for parking.
We
For
understand that.
For the new now. If there's not room to put the new parking there, then the future expansion can't happen.
That's what I'm getting at.
And so this is not guaranteeing any future expansion.
Right, that's
At all.
what, that's what I'm
That's not a
getting
gu-
at.
that's-
We're
that's
on the
what-
same page.
That's not what we're here to do. We're not here to guarantee any future expansion.
Right.
All we're here to do is look at the special exception where the church goes.
I understand. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
I'll say one thing to the parking. We have a lot of extra cars right now because we meet at a school. We have to do setup and tear down. And so we have anywhere from, especially by the time we get to about 9:30, anywhere from 20 to even sometimes 30 volunteers that come. Usually in that case, it's like me and my wife. I come in my vehicle and then she later comes. Once we're in a building, we're not going to have setup and tear down. So most families will be coming in cars together as opposed to right now where we're driving two. And so that's why there'd be such a high number of vehicles this time. And remind again that I think the city, what they required was 45. We doubled that.
Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir. Yeah, if you want to come up and just,
I can talk pretty loud. Just one question. Can we get a percentage of the church members that do live in the immediate community?
okay, the question brought up, do you have an idea?
We could do that.
We've got several others that live in Smyrna that live in those communities that did not come because of solar burn.
Yeah, I'm talking about participation tonight, just in general, how many of those live in our neighborhood? Or actually our neighborhood?
I'd say we're about a half or a third of our members live in Laverne. Live in the city of Laverne. I don't know exactly in those
The
subdivisions.
neighborhood was my question.
Okay.
How many percentage?
Did you have an idea of that, sir?
What city? About 10 families.
10 families. 10 families answer the question, sir. Okay, I have a couple of questions for staff. On the drainage. The drainage was brought up. Have you received the drainage calculations?
Drainage calculations have been received and reviewed, and they meet the criteria that we have.
Okay, so drain. Number two, the parking grant. The parking as really laid out meets our requirements?
Yes, sir. We 45 are required per zoning ordinance, and they've shown 90.
Now, the question was brought up regarding the buffer space about the trees. Does that meet and exceed our requirements?
For the total landscaping?
Total landscaping, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's far exceeds our requirements.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question on that. The question was brought up that you're talking 3-foot shrubs. Can that be changed to 6 or 15-foot trees?
We don't have any requirement on that.
Okay.
That could be something that could
But
be looked at as a requirement as special exception.
Okay, or Pastor Brewster, if that was a concern of one of the neighbors of the height of the tree, would it be considered to raise that buffer?
We would, but we're also keeping in mind that they'll grow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and last one for the city staff on the traffic. How does that fit in with our traffic requirements?
Really, all we look at is
What we were looking at, basically, you got an existing intersection here with Vineyard and Blair. And then Blair Oaks came in not too long ago and got approved. Their only connection point would be somewhere along Blair, which we chose the midpoint to be safest. You know, you got a curve and you've also got the hill. If the church was to put an entrance here, which I think they showed at one time somewhere in this area here, then you have the conflict with if somebody is pulling out here, plus you're adding all the traffic to this area here to where if they pull in, then it's, you know, it should be safer as far as Blair. Now, I do understand, and staff does understand, that you are increasing the amount of traffic on these roads at their time of service. However, we don't feel like it's going to be a conflict that out of the two scenarios, it seems to be the safest.
You have a question on this board, the staff, or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think I heard somebody say that if this church is not built and this property is then sold, since it is zoned R1, what how does this go in there that don't fit with that neighborhood at all?
Yes, sir. We actually don't have any current exterior requirements on any type of building within the city. We don't have any architectural review type regulations. We have, I think we've talked about that in the over the past few months. You know, we've looked at looking at some regulations that would you know, look at some overlay districts, that sort of thing. But we currently don't have any requirements which you know, would allow any type of you know, single-family residential with vinyl siding or anything like that would still meet city requirements. So.
What is the checkage along, well, the Blair Oaks Court? What is that? Is that the buffer?
That's the buffer, yes, ma'am.
There's no way they could maybe come in that little cul-de-sac somehow and come down? Not all the way to the end, but
This.
They don't own that property.
Yeah. The other issue, I think, with the traffic, there's two ways to look at access management, and one is to have the several entrances along Collector Street, which Blair is technically a collector. One thing I wanted to also show was, I don't think I finished that thought. You can have multiple access points on a road, or you can divert them all toward another street, such as Vineyard, and have a defined access point to maybe signalize in the future. And I think that's one of the things that would be looked at with Vineyard with the increased traffic. Would have to look at signalizing it at some point. Let me forward onto the curve here. This is the curve on Blair that we were looking at. This kind of shows, this is the entrance onto Vineyard. So one of the other things, you can't deny property owner access to property. So there would have to be some access point to the property if it's developed. And this is, you know, we looked at this, and you know, staff didn't feel it was a good option to have the traffic coming out onto Blair with the existing curve.
Any other questions from this board?
I would like to encourage you all, though, to come to the mayor and alderman meeting, and especially concerned about Blair Road. After all, they're the ones that really control this thing. We have other streets in Laverne that need the same kind of addressing. So I'd sure like to see y'all fill it up sometime to talk about that. I live on Waldron Road, and where I live, when Rock Springs Elementary came, we had great concerns about traffic there. Still do, out Waldron Road. I've learned to adapt my time for coming in and out, not between 7:30 and 10 minutes to 8, because it's going to be full of Rock Springs middle people, you know. And some of them doesn't drive carefully, that's for sure. But we've learned to adapt to it, and really the school has been a good neighbor for us up there, you know. I didn't like it to start with, but I had to change my mind.
Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard a lot of information this evening, and this board's direction is to make a decision. Primarily, it's a special exception for the R1 zoning district. The other items on there are, so it's only for putting a church in R1 district, special exception. And with that, this chairman will accept a recommendation one way or the other.
I'll make a motion in favor of the special exemption.
We have a motion in favour of the special exception. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. We're going to do a roll call. Mr. Jones.
Aye.
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 No.
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 Steve, I'm going to vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to new business. A variance for the accessory structure of an I-2 zoning district for proposed storage tank and structure to be constructed at Nashville Farmers Cooperative Facility located at 180 Old Nashville Highway, property owned by Tennessee Farmers Cooperative. Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Chairman. Industrial lots have a maximum of 1,500 square feet, according to our zoning ordinance, that are allowed per lot. Tennessee Farmers Co-op has 119 acres in Laverne. Lot for the variance request is 9.4 acres. That's this lot right here, zoned I-2. And they've applied for a variance to place a 2,826 square foot tank and a 1,920 square foot building on the property. On the application, they actually don't have the building stated on the application. However, they do have it on the drawing here, just basically sketched in. This is the location. There's Old Nashville Highway and the little section of gravel road that it's located there. There's Murfreesboro Road, just to kind of get a better idea of where this is located. The aerial showing the existing.
Now, where exactly on that?
Yeah, where exactly
are they talking about putting it on that spot right there?
In this corner area right here, close to the underpass.
Okay.
They wanted to do the tank there and then place the building beside of it. Which just kind of shows the co-op property. And then this is the area back here that's shown on the plan that they presented.
Is that an abandoned road through there now, or is it still a city street?
Yes, sir. It's abandoned.
It's abandoned. Okay. Is this a highly volatile thing they're going to use there?
It's according to the fire marshal. I've spoke with him about it, and the fire department. It in itself isn't volatile. I think there are certain circumstances where, if mishandled, it can be volatile. But
is it going to be a danger to the neighborhoods around it, across from it there? You know, say within a mile of it.
I might ask the applicant that actually to let them answer.
You're an applicant, so you mind standing up and just answer some of these questions, or raise your hand if you would, to be sworn in, if you would, please.
Do you swear and promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
David Moss, I'm General Counsel for Tennessee Farmers Co-op. I reside at 5001 Montclair Drive in Nashville, Tennessee. Trying to answer some of your questions here, and hopefully this won't be quite as contentious as the last hearing. The tank, this will be a what's called a UAN tank. It's a urea ammonium nitrate. Urea ammonium nitrate is a liquid nitrogen fertilizer. It's non-flammable. It basically has no odor to it. It's on the MSDS sheets. It's the hazard. It's listed as slight, and which is about as good as you can get. And I don't know if there's other questions on the actual liquid fertilizer. I've got Randy Kroll with me, who is our environmental health and safety manager, and he'll be glad to answer any questions on that. This is, of course, our request for a variance, and I've got some handouts. If you don't mind, pass those down. And it's my understanding, I'm certainly no expert in this area at all, so, but it's my understanding that that we can't, Tennessee Farmers can't build an accessory structure over 1,500 square feet without a permit or variance. This particular structure, the footpad on it is approximately 2,800 square feet. We do own this particular parcel that we're referencing here is actually a part of 119 acres. Tennessee Farmers actually owns over 130 acres altogether contiguous there. As you're looking at this drawing, the white dot, of course, references where the footpad is expected to be. The building immediately to the left of the white dot is our existing fertilizer facilities. We already store dry fertilizer in all those buildings. The building that was referenced earlier, that's actually just a loadout terminal, basically a shed for trucks to pull under. It's not actually a structure in the way that I would think of it. But to give you a reference of where this is at, the closest neighbor there is to the northeast there, with north being to the top. Northeast is Specialty Arms, if that helps out there.
How many feet did you say it was?
I'm sorry?
How many feet did you say that was?
As far as the footpad, about 2,800.
Okay. And how far from there to Specialty Arms?
That I can't.
Oh, 500 feet or so? Because Specialty Arms is in the curve of the old highway
It's
there.
right,
yeah.
that
right
building right there,
there,
yes.
yeah. Okay. So that'd be the closest neighbor you'd have to you.
That would be the closest neighbor that we would have.
Are you just talking about one of these? Or
Yes,
all?
yes. That's the second, I'm sorry, the second sheet that I gave you is just an example of what a UEN tank looks like. This is certainly we're not reinventing the wheel. This is something that many folks have. In fact, we've got tanks like this in Caruthersville, Missouri, and elsewhere, but we don't have one in Laverne.
So it'd be a structure there that'd be offloaded off the railroad spur. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. We've got a railroad spur there. As you can see in the picture, the second page, you can see that there's actually a line hookup and basically a pump. It'd be very similar to that. We would pump off the UAN from rail cars, and it would go into that tank for holding, and then trucks would come in and offload it.
Did the fire marshal have any concerns about that process that you know of?
He said that there weren't any requirements that it basically met all his requirements. He, they didn't wasn't considered a hazardous substance, so that was his main concern, and he did look at the MSDS sheets and shared that with the fire department.
It's a relatively safe product. Obviously anything that's like this is going to have some potential hazard, but this is a relatively safe. No, it's non-flammable.
And if it's a leak,
the plan under, of course, EPA is going to guide what you really kind of do there, to my understanding. But what we plan to build is actually what's called a double-walled tank, where you come in. Of course, all the solution is inside, and then you monitor the wall there for any leakage, and that does comply.
What is the height of the tank in total?
60 feet in diameter by 32 feet high. Currently, this property is zoned I-2 heavy industrial. We're just requesting a permit or a variance to be able to build this structure.
Do you not need a containment pond in case you get a major leak?
The double wall is a substitute for that.
But where that land drains straight into Hurricane Creek, and then drains straight into Percy Priest. That's what I'm more worried about.
We have a spillway gate at that
So do you mind stepping to the microphone and
Yes.
just state your name, if you would, just so we know who you are?
I'm Randy Kroll, and I'm the Environmental Health and Safety Director at the co-op. We do have a containment gate down at
Down
that
further
creek
down.
point where we can, our guard shack is located close by also, so they could be instructed if there were ever a breach or something, that they could close that gate down, and it would contain probably the majority of it. I hadn't done any calculations to see, but it'd back it all the way up towards the fertilizer building.
Even in an absolute worst-case scenario. And we
Yeah.
do have 24-hour security. There's somebody there all the
How
time.
much is the full capacity of the tank?
668,000.
676,000 gallons.
I think the gate's down there back behind where the Pizza Hut is, isn't it?
Exactly,
Behind
it's
the
right
Pizza
there
Hut.
at the
Yeah.
road.
I've seen it.
You just crank it down.
Yeah.
And what is it used for again?
Oh, it's part of our stormwater prevent. in case
No, I
we
mean,
have
what
a-
is the
It's
chemical?
Liquid nitrogen.
It's a fertilizer, ground application for crops. And it doesn't have a RQ, a listed RQ. So as far as a release quantity, that's a reportable amount, it doesn't have, it's not deemed that serious of a hazard since it is a ground application product.
Well,
But
y'all
we
gonna have to
want to
be-
recover whatever we could because of the value of the product, so.
Yeah. You're gonna have to report to EPA, they're gonna require more than we'll ever require probably, I would say.
Any other questions, Ms. Board? Anyone else like to speak on this subject? With that, we'll take a motion for or against.
I move we grant the variance.
A motion for the variance. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
You have a second? Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else this board would like to say this evening?
No, I would just like to say one thing. I hope the meeting tonight, previous to this one, about the church, I hope the community does come together. Please don't be angry with each other, okay? We're just all trying to do the right thing, and I hope that's the way y'all look at it, okay? That's the only thing I'd have to say.
Adjourned.